Today is the Disappearance Day of Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur, who's the original biographer of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the pastimes of Mahaprabhu. He's considered the last disciple of Nityananda Prabhu. He came in the end. Guru Maharaj reminded that Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, they're not staying for so long. The Goswamis, some lived for a long time. So Vrindavan Das Thakur, as he's telling these pastimes, as the biographer of Mahaprabhu in Chaitanya Bhagavata, sometimes he's expressing lamentation that he did not get to observe them directly. But we know in the same slokas, when Mahaprabhu is offering praise to his devotees, particularly in the Mahaprakash pastimes, he says that actually for sincere devotees, the Lord reveals these pastimes. Live stream, real-time revelation of divine pastimes, if that's their heart's inner necessity. So, even if we take it from that point of view, that it's mysterious that Vrindavan Das Thakur is presenting such beautiful descriptions of the pastimes of Mahaprabhu, and lamenting in one sense that was a little bit before his time, but it's as if in response to his heart and his sincerity that all of this is being revealed to him. Otherwise, how is he expressing all of these things? One thing is, we can say they heard from other devotees, but this isn't just like the parroting or reproduction of an account you heard from someone. It can only be received by someone who is supremely qualified. When Mahaprabhu is showing the Mahaprakash, what that is, it's a 21-hour period where he took seat on the Sringasan, but in full cognition of his divinity. Before that, sometimes in his madness, he becomes Varahadev or other, and it's almost like a mad delirium, and he comes out and is asking everyone what happened. But here, with total cognition, he's, Swayam Bhagavan, and according to all these devotees' hearts' inner hankering, he's revealing himself. Bhagavatam sloka is expressed, and again given in Chaitanya-charitamrita in the introductory section, which is providing the foundation for the proper conception of Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the sloka given it Tum Bhakti Yoga Paribhavita Hrit Saroja Ase Shrutekshita Pato Nanunata Pungsang Yad Yadya Urugaya Mayanti Tad Bapu Pranayase Sat Anugrahaya, something. But it's very beautiful because it's saying Advaita Charja is calling on the Lord to appear. And that's where this is given, saying the Lord reciprocates the hearts of his devotees. So on one level, he's praying for his appearance to save the fallen souls, to deliver the people of the Kali Yuga. But at the same time, he also wants to have his pastimes with Mahaprabhu. Oh, what I was going to say. So it's mentioned in that Mahaprakash in this regard about how it's not just a question, this is a very interesting point, it's not just a question of seeing the Lord, because you would think, well, isn't that it? And they're saying, no, it's what is in the heart of that devotee that gives them the capacity to appreciate seeing the Lord and for who he is. And some examples are given of those who, after many, many lifetimes, they came to the point of seeing, for example, Krishna. But because they had no devotion, even though Krishna himself is standing before them, they couldn't recognize who he is. A prime example given is the washerman, the Kamsa's launder, tailor. So Krishna is standing before him, the object, ultimate object of love and affection and devotion, and gives him a service opportunity by saying, oh, these clothes look very nice. I could use something. Balaram, you know, we just came from Vrindavan. We're small town people. We don't have city style. You know, we're rustic. He likes to play that way, like, look at us, we're, you know, cowherd boys. This would be nice. He's saying, these are the clothes of the king, you upstart. You know. So Krishna himself is before him and giving him a service opportunity and so he's seeing the Lord ostensibly, but because his heart has no devotion, he cannot recognize who he is. So not only is he indifferent, he's inimical or adversarial to Krishna's request. Whereas Krishna nipped that in the bud, shall we say. But these devotees, they're not only, Nimai Pandit has appeared in Navadvip, but because of their devotion they can recognize who he is. But because different types of devotion are in the hearts of different types of devotees, they see him a little differently. And he's very lovingly, affectionately reciprocating that. So Vrindavan Das Thakur, who is the conduit for all of this being expressed, is saying, oh, I came just after I missed these wonderful pastimes that I just described in a living way with the heart infused with devotion. They'll come alive to you. But that hankering he has also reveals the quality of devotion in the heart of Vrindavan Das Thakur, who's expressing unparalleled beautiful pastimes as saying, oh, I'm so unfortunate, but he's in one sense the most fortunate. And we're told, even in his appearance in this world, oh, during this Mahaprakash, 24-hour divine manifestation of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you know, as I told recently, Kolavecha Sridhar is called, Srivas Thakur, Advaita Acharya, so many others. And one who is called is Narayani, who's like a 5-year-old girl. And she's the niece of Srivas Thakur's brother. She's Srivas Thakur's niece, she's the daughter of Srivas Thakur's brother. So she's a 5-year-old devotee girl, and in the midst of all this divine display, Mahaprabhu calls her and says, Narayani, come here. And she's like a very shy little girl. And he says, I want to hear you cry with Krishna Prem. Says Paramananda Sukh. I want you to just cry out and, you know, the highest sort of divine devotional ecstasy of Krishna Prem. And she immediately begins to cry tears of Krishna Prem, love of God. And that makes Mahaprabhu so happy. You know, his remnants are given to her. And later, when she, you know, achieves majority and becomes a married lady, her son is Vrindavan Das Thakur. And just in a few verses, this shows you that Vrindavan Das is a divine conduit. He's not telling you all these, he's just telling you the story of when Mahaprabhu asked the little girl Narayani to cry in Krishna Prem. He doesn't say, and that's my mom, and let me tell you all about it. He's concealing that just to express her glories, independently of himself. That's Vaishnavism. So, and that Vrindavan Das Thakur, he is not only the last, when we say last disciple of Nityananda Prabhu, it means he's one of the, I believe, the Dwadasha Gopals, if not like that group, the 12 cowherd boys who descend with Nityananda Prabhu. So really it's the Chaitanya Bhagavata, it's the biography of Mahaprabhu. But we see from the very beginning, he's praising Nityananda Prabhu extensively. So much so in the beginning, he's saying, gee, I thought this book is supposed to be about Mahaprabhu, and so far, he's praising so much Nityananda Prabhu because he's revealing the glories of Nityananda Prabhu. Without that sort of appreciation, there can be no proper conception of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, he's always, as Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami and Chaitanya-charitamrita concludes with, each chapter with, Rupa Raghunatha Pade Jara Ash Chaitanya-charitamrita Kohe Krishna Das, praising Rupa and Raghunath. Vrindavan Das Thakur, at the end of every one of his chapters, he's praising the lotus feet of Nitai Gauranga, Gaura Nityananda. And he's so fervent and emphatic in his promoting the glories of Nityananda Prabhu. And they're expressed extensively in the pages of Chaitanya Bhagavata. And after pointing out how merciful is Nityananda Prabhu, and by the grace of Nityananda Prabhu, how you can get connection with Mahaprabhu. They say, by the grace of Nityananda, you get Gauranga, and by the grace of Gauranga, you get Radha and Govinda. This is the sequence. Right? So, but Vrindavan Das is so intense that he says, after all I've told you about the glories of Nityananda Prabhu, and how essential this is for having a foundation in Krishna conception and being a devotee of Gauranga Mahaprabhu, and how everything will come to you by the grace of Nityananda Prabhu. I've expressed this in so many different ways, by telling his pastimes and giving examples of his inconceivable, unlimited, indiscriminate mercy. If after all of that, he's saying, you don't take shelter of the lotus feet of Nityananda Prabhu or appreciate him, he said, then I'm going to kick your teeth in. And everyone goes, oh, what? Sadhus don't speak like that. That's not a devotee. What? I'm going to kick your teeth. And sometimes Guru Maharaj would say, with my left foot, which is like an element of insult. And so, Sahajya, misinterpreter, imitation is misinterpreters, they say, oh, just see, how you can find fault with the author of the Chaitanya Bhagavata, but somehow they do. And they say, just see, he's lacking the humility of Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami, as we expressed the other, when he says, Jagai madhai hoite muise papishta, purishirakita hoite muise lagishta. I'm more sinful than Jagai and Madhai and lower than the worm in the snow. And actually once, I asked her, more than once, but I think I once, stands on my, like listening to Guru Maharaj express this, and I was saying like, and then we hear like what Jagai and Madai did, and like coming, Western background, and you're thinking like, gee, they didn't sound that bad. Like, that's it? So I said to Guru Maharaj, and I mean, I wasn't trying to be clever, actually. It just occurred to me, and I said, all right, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, who's like our worshipable guru and our guru, he's making these deep expressions of humility and saying, he's worse than them, and we kind of know that's not true. But it's a feeling he has. But then it occurred to me, I thought, what if you are more sinful than Jagai and Madhai? It's not a poetic expression, or, what if you are? And Guru Maharaj, one thing he told me is, first, don't think you're Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. Also, he said, it is a sincere posing. What he's presenting. It's not hyperbole or cleverness. He really feels this way because of the depth of his appreciation of the Lord. And also another time Guru Maharaj said, oh, perhaps that plenary sentiment is descending within you. Saying, if you come to think along these lines, this will also be good for your progress. And I remember being a teenager reading the Bhagavad Gita, and there's a chapter that Prabhupada calls the divine and demoniac nature. I think it's the 16th chapter. And at one point, Krishna starts giving a list of what are demonic qualities. And I was like looking at the list and noticing I had all of them. But he says, Arjun, but don't worry, Arjun, you're not like that. And I thought, oh no. Like, everything was great up until I read this part. I said, don't worry, Arjun, you're not like that. And again I was thinking, but what if you are like that? But the book is there to help you. Help us. Otherwise, why are all these things being expressed? We take it. Arjun's not actually an illusion. Arjun is playing the role of, it's real, his perception, but we know he's Arjun, Krishna's dear friend and devotee. He's playing that part so that the path to liberation and freedom from these things would be expressed and open to us. So anyway, they say, look at Kaviraj Goswami, that's the Vaishnava mood. And here's this Vrindavan Das saying, if you don't accept the lotus feet of Nityananda, then I'm going to kick your teeth in. But hearing this, and actually he had to hear so many things, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, from these Upasampradayas. Upasiddhantic, operatic misconceptions. But he said, no. He said, this is the mercy. How merciful is Vrindavan Das Thakur? For those who he's imploring to take mercy of the lotus feet of Nityananda Prabhu, and they're resisting that, avoiding that, circumventing, not appreciating. They're lost. So what is Vrindavan Das? By his kick, he said, he's opened a new channel for the Lord's mercy. As when we've seen, like, sometimes little children, their parents are like talking to someone, and their world is is always like from here, and then there's these big people up here, and they feel left out. Different things happen, and they're like, who are these people? And you're spending so much time. Sometimes, while they're talking, the little kid, they come forward and they'll like kick that person. And they're like, oh, and then they run and hide behind their mother's skirt, looking, And then the parents are like, oh, he's not normally like that, and they offer themselves in compensation to the victim who was offended. Both parents say, oh, we're sorry, what can we do? Let's, they have to be very nice to them as compensation. He's saying, so here, Vrindavan Das Thakur, he's like the child here of Gaura Nityananda. If he kicks you, then Gaura Nityananda, they have to come and give themselves to you as compensation. He said, so actually, this is the mercy of Vrindavan Das Thakur. He's opened up a new channel of mercy for those who are otherwise hopeless. But only a devotee can understand that. As we told, the time when comes to mind when Shivananda Sen, he's in charge of taking the devotees from Navadvip to Jagannath Puri every year. And it says there's 200 Mahabhagavatas. And we know, as we see in the associates of Nityananda Prabhu, many of his associates, they're eccentric. Like they're Mahabhagavatas, but the one who, Abhiram Thakur, he carries a tree trunk that would take, 64 men to lift? He carries that as a flute and twirls it and plays with it. And that's like their pastime. 200 of these, Shivananda Sen is in charge, including Nityananda Prabhu and others. And we're told, and they have to go pay, you cross a border, like from Bengal to Odissi, Orissa, then maybe have to, and meet with the local immigration or customs people. It's, quite an operation. And then everyone has to be fed. And then we're told Shivananda Sen put Nityananda Prabhu under a tree, and Nityananda Prabhu had not been fed. And he was very upset. And he called Shivananda Sen, and Shivananda Sen tried to explain the situation. And Nityananda Prabhu kicked him and cursed him that all his family members would drop dead. So then Shivananda Sen's wife, she's saying, if Nityananda says that, he's Baladev, then this is going to happen. And Shivananda Sen said, let it happen, but who are we to inconvenience Nityananda Prabhu? Of course, it doesn't happen, but it's to bring out the love and affection of the devotees. So he's saying, yes, better we all die than inconvenience Nityananda Prabhu for a few moments. If there's any fault, it's on our part. So, anyway, Vrindavan Das Thakur, Kaviraj Goswami, although he is the author of Sri Chaitanya-charitamrita, repeatedly he's praising Vrindavan Das Thakur as the Vyas of Chaitanya Leela. Everything he's described perfectly. He tells of the great devotee Haridas Pandit, who would, in Vrindavan, recite Chaitanya Bhagavata for the pleasure of all the devotees. Remember, the audience, they're all exalted Mahabhagavatas. And he would be giving the Chaitanya Bhagavata class, recitation for them. And Kaviraj Goswami says it was as if he was a moon and all those devotees were like stars. So the moon surrounded by many stars. And he said, but what was his speaking of Chaitanya Bhagavata like? It looked like a river of nectar descending from the moon in an assembly of stars. That sort of praise he's giving for the Chaitanya Bhagavata, Vrindavan Das Thakur. And at every step saying, anything he described is perfect. It would be an offense for me to repeat the same thing. So in that instance, I'll either say it just as a reference, Like the time Mahaprabhu wanted to dance as Rukmini in the house of Chandrasekharacharya. It's described extensively in the Chaitanya Bhagavata by Vrindavan Das Thakur. And in the Charitamrita, it's just a sloka saying, and then one time in the house of Chandrasekhar, he exhibited Devi Bhav. That's what it says. So Kaviraj Goswami, at every step of the way, he's praising Vrindavan Das Thakur. And he's saying, only if there's something, fearing his book would become larger, sometimes he didn't describe something in detail, or there may be something like that I heard from Raghunath Das Goswami, Swarup Damodar via Raghunath Das Goswami, and I present that very humbly. But he's always giving first the preference, priority to Vrindavan Das Thakur and Sri Chaitanya Bhagavata, which is originally called the Chaitanya Mangal, but later a book came by that name, and the devotees affectionately refer to his book as Chaitanya Bhagavata. So this is his Tirobhav, and everyone should read Sri Chaitanya Bhagavata. And it's available in Russian also, isn't it?
The
first volume
is available. The second one is still in progress, but we read it
manuscript.
Yeah. And the third one.
It's very important to get a proper grasp of the pastimes of Mahaprabhu. And Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur has his Gaudiya Bhasya commentary, extremely illuminating and beautiful. And so many extraordinary pastimes are there. And as Kaviraj Goswami is saying, if they're there, I'm only going to acknowledge them. It would be an offense for me to describe the same thing. So for those who are familiar with Chaitanya-charitamrita, they'll be especially delighted and ecstatic to read the Chaitanya Bhagavata and hear all these other pastimes of Mahaprabhu and from a different perspective. Jai Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur Ki Bhav Mahamahotavati Ki Jai. Some question?
Just online Dandavats. There are some questions, but I read some Dandavats from Dhananjaya Das.
From Dhananjaya Das from Italy or Dhananjaya Das of Malini?
It is not mentioned
Oh.
here. So
Okay.
the next Dandavats from Teresa Loret de Mola.
Yes, Tapananandini Didi.
Yeah, and Dandavats from Kharkiv Veda Life team, Arjuna Das.
Yes.
So, and the question we have from Mahavir.
I've been there
Kharkiv.
with Muralishwar Prabhu. We did some preaching there many years ago. Many wonderful devotees. Major city in the Ukraine.
Question from Mahavirya Prabhu.
Yes.
In the scriptures, we often encounter the notions of karma, jnana, and yoga lumped in together as being unfavorable to bhakti. So, in the definition of Shuddha Bhakti, Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karma anavratam anukulyena krishnanushilanam bhakti-rutama.
Rupa Goswami's definition.
So the question is, why isn't yoga included?
Well, it's not exempted. Well, the simple answer would be that Gyan would cover that. It's by inference. But really, it's if you want some emphatic denouncement, Harer Nama, Harer Nama, Harer Nama Eva Kevalam, Kalo Nasteva, Nasteva, Nasteva Gatiranyata. There, the three Nastevas are karma, jnana, and yoga. The Bhagavatam says, although yoga may be helpful for calming the mind, it cannot deliver ultimate reality. So, but this is a little misleading in modern context because the yoga that's being described here has little or nothing to do with yoga as it's understood in the modern world, which is basically hatha yoga turned into exercise. So if someone was listening, they would have to have the backstory and understand that what was the purpose of yoga originally. It's funny, almost a total inverse is taking place, whereas yoga is now it's like 99% women. It was probably 99 and 9/10% men in the beginning. And they weren't men who were trying to look good. They were out in the forest, they did not look good, I can tell you that much. They didn't cut their hair or their fingernails and many things. It wasn't a pretty sight. But what they're doing is, what they were expert at is subduing body, mind, senses to allow themselves to have a deep level meditation, union and meditation with Paramatma as their target. That's the other thing we have to understand. Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavan. 3 state, Vedanti tattva vidas tattvam yajnanam advayam. There's only one thing to be understood. That's Krishna. But in 3 aspects. I repurposed the unified field theory. I like that expression. But I'm saying here, what is it? Brahma, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. So Brahma means, it's the most spirit in its most generic sense, all accommodating Brahma. Everything fits within that. That's why, as a footnote or sidebar, why Brahmavad, and by extension Mayavad, why it can appear to accommodate everything. It seems to be the most generous and accessible. Hey, we worship everybody and everything. What's wrong with that? You go to one of their centers. Mahayogi Maharaj and I went to the Vedanta Center once, and we had to get some research books or something. They had an altar room. We were just seeing what was there and going there. And they're doing what we'd only heard about from Prabhupada and Saraswati, Panchupasana. Means 5 different types of worship. So in the center, say Lakshmi Narayan or Radha Krishna. Then, Ma Kali. Then, Shiva. And then, Jesus. And, you. Just fun for the whole family. I remember with Hridayananda Maharaj in Los Angeles, this famous Swami named Satchidananda, Integral Yoga Institute. A very nice, I just want to say, he's a very nice person, actually. And when Srila Prabhupada was sick in New York, in the very early, in the 1968, something, he visited Prabhupada in the hospital. Because they were there at the same time, so some friendship, we don't want to be disrespectful, but I'm just telling a little story that happened, and I don't think it's disrespectful. So he was visiting with some of his followers, and we had this museum there, a diorama museum, different exhibits, just as they had in Gaudiya Math in India, which Guru Maharaj gave the name First Theistic Exhibition. That's where this name comes from, Theistic Media Studios. So they called this one FATE, was the acronym, FATE, First American Theistic Exhibition. And there were dioramas, means like statues and painted scenery, backgrounds, and of Bhagavad Gita slokas and other things. So we gave Swamiji the tour, and then we went back to our offices for a little like talk, refreshment or something. And I think just making small talk, I said, which exhibit did you like the best? And there's one based on the Bhagavad Gita, what is it? Samalo Trajna Kanchana Pandita Samadarshana Vidya Vinaya Sampane Brahmane Gavi Hastani Suni Chaiva Swapake Cha Pandita Samadarshina. That Pandit, who's got Brahman vision, he sees the dog or the dog eater, same, gold, stones, same. He's seeing everything equally. So the dog and the dog eater, and so he said, that's the one I like the best. And he said, where it's showing that dog is also God. Because after all, dog is simply God spelled backwards. And everyone went, ha ha ha. But Hridayananda Maharaj has like genius, like sharpness of mind. And he said, we're not interested in any backwards conception of God. So that was a good retort. We're not interested in a backwards conception of God. But Brahma, right? All accommodating Brahma. And see, this is the ultimate arrogance. Is expressed in the statement, ahang brahmasmi, which, what it's saying is, I am Brahma, I'm that Brahma. But another way of rendering it is saying, I am God. That great Brahma that's pervading everywhere and everything, I'm that. So Guru Maharaj said, he, as usual, observed some discrepancy and even this type of thing. He said, interestingly, those who subscribe to the philosophy that I'm God, you're God, we're all God. He said, why do they have so much respect for their guru? Their guru they revere and hold in a special regard. He's saying, if it's all, everything's just equal and the same and there's no difference, why are you showing so much reverence? Is he like more God? Anyway, Brahma, all accommodating Brahma. But means everything fits within that, it can accommodate everything. But then that's one extreme of the infinite, going in the other direction. All permeating. Smaller than the small, first is greater than the greatest, all accommodating. Now, smaller than the smallest, within everything. Like it says in Brahma Samhita, but they're taking that concept to its ultimate expression, saying, Andantarastam paramanu chayantarastam. Even in the heart of every atom, Paramatma. We're told param, and so heart of the atom, heart of the person, heart of every living being. God in the heart of every living being. That's one conception. It's a legitimate conception. That is the target of the yogis. Their target is not, Bhagavan, Sri Krishna, Radhan, Krishna. That's not their target. Their target is either Brahma, which is really the target of the Gyanis, so really the Gyan part is covering them, or Paramatma at best. And even then, it's mentioned often, they then, who are addicted to this Brahmavadi sort of conception, they think they're the Paramatma. Big mistake. So in meditating, reaching Paramatma level of meditation, they're thinking, I'm that. Tattvamasi. And if we say, well, just from a an objective point of view of analysis, I'm saying, wow, what's so wrong with that? Some level of spiritual realization, obviously beyond what most of the people in the world could hope to experience. Why fault it? Then we start understanding something about devotees and devotion and love. So devotee is not just looking for some mind-blowing experience. They want to serve Krishna. So if you tell them, whatever it is, however it's expressed, there's some sort of God realization where, it'll be like you're high, forever, all the time, you're in a deep state of never-ending happiness and enlightenment, and they're like, yeah. And what about the possibility of love to serve Krishna? There's no possibility of that? No, no need for that, no possibility of that. Then I say, Kaivalyam narakayate. Prabodhananda Saraswati Thakur. What does he say? Tridashapur pushpa, like flowers in the sky. Kaivalyam, we consider that merging into that kind of oneness that is sought after by these so-called jnanis and yogis. No opportunity to serve Krishna, to have loving exchange, hellish. We consider that hellish. And Rupa Goswami says in the Bhakti Sudhir Sindhu, when he's trying to tell us unique traits, characteristics of pure devotion, which is where the sloka comes. Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karmadrina, no covering of karma, gyan. Anu kulyena krishnanushilanam bhaktiruttama, and doing what is favorable to Krishna culture means to what is pleasing to Krishna. Not like, oh, I enjoy doing this. What is pleasing to Krishna? There's a famous verse in the Bhagavatam that Gurudev rendered very simply. He said, because it said, what is it? Bhagavatam, vichikirshitome tadamritattvam. So, well, I forgot that. Tyaktva samasta karma nireditatma bhagavan vichikirshit. I forgot. But he says, he just reduced it to a phrase. He said, what this sloka is telling us, give Krishna what he wants. He made it that simple. That's what it means. Give Krishna what he wants. He said, if he wants a samosa, give him a samosa. You say, well, what is, give Krishna? And you say, well, I don't know what Krishna wants. Then you ask his devotee. They know what Krishna wants. So Rupa Goswami, on this comparative happiness, so he said, generally speaking, the most intense form of mundane happiness is sexual pleasure. We're told, Ramante yogino anante sachirananda chiramani. These yogis, what they're experiencing is so much greater than that they find any remembrance of mundane erotic pleasure as distasteful compared to what they're experiencing, the pleasure of Brahmananda, spiritual pleasure. Like, Rishabdev, what did he tell his sons? Nayam deho deha bhajam niloke kastan kaman arhate vidbhujamye tapo dibya putrakam yena shutvam shudhyed yasmad brahmasokyam dvanantam. He's telling his sons, don't try for the same like this so-called erotic pleasure. He's saying the animals, they also have that. And in some cases, better than you. Saying, don't, like as a human being, that shouldn't be your goal. He says, tapo dibyam tapa. He's saying like, control yourself, do some, what does tapa mean? Voluntarily inconveniencing yourself for the sake of spiritual realization. Tapo dibyam putraka yena sada shudhyed yasmad brahmasok. That means brahmasuk, spiritual happiness. Then instead of getting this momentary happiness, becoming a slave of momentary pleasure, you'll experience brahmasuk, which is twanantam, unlimited, never-ending, But so Rupa Goswami is factoring this in relation to the Brahmanandis. And so he says, Brahmanando bhavedesha chet paradha gunikrita naiti bhakti sukhambodhe paramanu tilamape. So remember, they're beyond mundane erotic pleasure. They're enjoying this spiritual happiness that says millions of times greater. Rupa Goswami says, if you take that pleasure that they're experiencing and multiply it 1 trillion-fold, it won't be equivalent to an atomic fraction of the pleasure that's derived from pure devotion. So if we hear that, that should at least pique your imagination. And you think, could that possibly be true? If that is true, then what is this Krishna Bhakti Rasa? So the leading authority on that, Mahaprabhu's delegated representative, who wrote the book of devotion, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, makes this sort of advertisement for Krishna Bhakti Rasa, saying, if you multiplied Brahmananda 1 trillion-fold, it won't be equal to an atomic fraction. So when you tell these devotees, you have some idea about spiritual realization, enlightenment, or whatever, and there's no possibility for this loving exchange with Krishna and the Krishna Bhakti Rasa, Kaivalyam Narakai. They're thinking, hellish, we're not interested in that. Rupa Goswami also quotes Kapila Dev and his instructions to Devahuti, which interestingly are similar to Nimai Pandit's instructions to Mother Sachi, because he is Kapila also. Where he's saying like, Salokya Sarsti Samipya Sarupya. That's for what? He's saying, pure devotees are not interested in any of these things. So we just said Sayuj is out of the question because there's, first of all they say, the demons are given Sayuja. Like the people who are trying to murder Krishna in his pastimes, they get Sayuja Mukti. All right. That's like the worst people get that. But no opportunity for service, for loving exchange. But even the others, Salokya, living on the same planet, Sarupya, having a form like the Lord, Samipya, living in the same place. But what was it? Yeah. Sarshti, having the same opulences. And he's saying, and actually, what is that? I can't think of a very beautiful verse saying that. Actually, the heart flow of the devotees is just like the Ganga flowing to the ocean. It's a very natural flow and current. And these so-called, they call it the shallows of the tributaries of liberation that go off from the side. They're nothing in comparison to this heart flow current of Krishna Bhakti. So, that being the target of the yogis, then we understand so-called bhakti yoga, its idea is not ultimately culminate in Paramatma Gyan. Because Paramatma, although a legitimate form of God realization, no Shakti, no consort. So Bhagavan proper begins when you have Lakshmi and Narayan. Krishna in the company of his potency. Lakshmi and Narayan, Sita, Ram, Rukmini, Dwarkanath, and then Krishna and Vrindavan, Radha and Krishna, Brajagopis. There's the life of happiness and love and affection and the full spectral range of loving relationships. Bhagavat Bhakti Yogataha. Evam Prasanna Manaso Bhagavan Bhakti Yogataha. Janayatya Shubhaigragyam. There's different verses. But so when this sort of yoga is referenced, that's another thing. It's not dismissing bhakti yoga, the verses that are dismissive of yoga, not bhakti yoga. Which really means, I mean, it sounds as a cliche, but it's beautiful. If ever this cliche had any truth, it's when expressed as, the yoga of the heart. That is bhakti yoga. It is anything but physical. Any other question?
Relating to this question, Teresa Laura Demola, she says, at the beginning of the talk, Goswami Maharaj talked about when Krishna is not recognizant. I'm worried about this. What happens if you see Krishna everywhere? What happens if you see Krishna everywhere? Then sometimes nowhere you can see it? I'm worried I might miss him. And there is a question from Dhananjaya Das.
Yes.
So, shall I read the question?
Yeah, let me hear that one also.
Okay. So Dhananjaya Das is asking, we know that Srila Krishna Das Kaviraj wrote in Chaitanya-charitamrita his works on Chaitanya-charitamrita were based on the Swarupa Damodar's in
Raghunath Das.
notes, yeah. And what about Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur and his Chaitanya Bhagavata? Were they based on anybody's notes?
Well, sometimes we hear Murari Gupta also took notes. And the first question is saying that she is afraid, seeing Krishna everywhere, you'll miss him. What was that? Oh, I'll put it to you. All right, I understand. Yeah. I'll say it like this. Yeah, I mean, this shows the sort of, devotion she has. That's a fear of the devotee. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Guru Maharaj mentions. Well, first of all, I should say, one of Guru Maharaj's themes is recognizing the difference between form and substance. Because form can be misleading. And so the objective world, the subjective world, how to always, he's saying if they're both congruous, no problem, right? Same. But if there's some clash between form and substance, we side with substance. Right? And we're always looking for that current. And he gave a nice example too. He's saying about the current of the Ganga. As we've seen in India, Sometimes the Ganga current enters another river. Sometimes another river mixes with the Ganga. So he said they have a saying then, if you say, well, then what really is the Ganga? They say, it's the current that's going. The water may go this way or that way, but once you're in this particular current, that's the actual Ganga. So this in-carrying current means a way of tracing whatever we see, whatever we experience. Part of devotional culture is tracing everything back to the central conception of the infinite, Krishna conception. To see it in relation to Krishna, not in forgetfulness of Krishna, divorced of Krishna conception, or any such thing, but always using the absolute center as our reference point, and then even what we see in the relative world, we have a way of judging that, measuring it, evaluating it. But within the devotional world, we have to be extra cautious. So Guru Maharaj mentions there was one disciple of Srila Bhakti Sudhir Thakur, and his name was something like Bhagavat Janananda. That's what I believe his name was. And he said he was a devotee, disciple of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur for some time, and then he left the world. Maybe prematurely or otherwise he left the world. And Guru Maharaj said, but to the surprise of all the devotees, Saraswati Thakur was found weeping and lamenting, and he said, oh, Bhakti Vinod Thakur came before me through him, and I couldn't recognize that. Now I can understand that, but I didn't understand. Bhakti Vinod Thakur came through him. And now I'm lamenting. I couldn't recognize him. So we take this, and actually he named one of the Gaudiya Mats after him. There's the Sri Bhagavat Janananda Gaudiya Mat. I don't know which city it is in. But what he's telling us gives us some insight into the heart of a devotee, and of a higher level devotee. He's always eager to find traces of divinity everywhere and in everything. And this will balance us or set us right. Just that Swamiji, who was in a naughty way misrepresenting that Gita sloka, but still that sloka is there, saying that whatever you see, part of advanced spiritual vision is to see its spiritual quality and spiritual nature. So it doesn't mean in some sort of fantasy projection, everything's Krishna and everything. How is everything Krishna? Directly and indirectly. We hear this in the first sloka of the Bhagavatam and later in the nutshell verses of the Bhagavatam. So we say, well, everything's Krishna. What is not Krishna? That's true, ultimately. Just like Guru Maharaj will say, really, from the ultimate consideration, everything is consciousness. Because what is this? This is a cluster of subjective conceptions makes an object. Something that's hard, black, has weight, depth, etc. But really it's floating in consciousness. So actually there's only consciousness, ultimately. And not only that, ultimately Krishna consciousness. But as Guru Maharaj says in one place, what is the situation we're in at present in the material world? He said, and our own situation, a part of the perfect appears to be imperfect. Right? Mamevangsa jiva loke, jiva bhuta sanatana. Because actually we are part of Krishna. Right? He says that. The jiva souls, they're my angsha, my parts, eternally. But when we practice Krishna culture, just as we were referring to that Bhagavatam verse, Brahma, Paramatma, Bhagavan, there is this one substance. There's a unified field theory to see how this is the Brahman aspect, this is Paramatma, that is Bhagavan. And then here are the different levels of differentiation. and how to understand this world in relation to the Purusha avatars, Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, Kiradakshaya Vishnu. It becomes quite involved philosophically how to understand everything. But the preference of a devotee is to see it in relation to Krishna. And considering that there's 3 types of devotees, the highest level devotees, they're incapable of not seeing everything in relation to Krishna. We're aspiring for a moment of that sort of divine consciousness. They're never not in that kind. Everything is perfect as far as they're concerned, in its own place and point in time and space and evolution. It's all good in the highest sense. Therefore, we're told that person has to come down to the second-class position of differentiation to preach or to enact the guru position, to discriminate between those who are friendly to Krishna-loving people, friendly to Krishna consciousness, those who are inimical and adversarial, to avoid them. But we say, well, but the higher devotees, they're seeing that everything is perfect. Yes. So the insect, the lizard and the tree, everything, it's all, they're moving at their own speed and their own rate towards Krishna conception. Nothing to see here, nothing to, why bother disturb them? But so how will they preach to the people other than sometimes giving vent to almost cryptic, mystical, indecipherable expressions of divine madness? But here and there, like sometimes we hear those higher devotees, like Bhajan and Ani, they're saying a few things, like Gaurkishore Das Babaji Maharaj, that are beneficial for others, but they're not preaching extensively. So the guru and the dissemination function is really enacted from the position of Madhyamadikar, the middle position. So they're saying, this is good, that's not. You go this way and not that way. This will be healthy for your spiritual advancement and progress. This will run counter to that. Because Guru Maharaj will say, from the higher point of view, everything's a favorable wave. But there has to be a point where we say, this is not favorable. On a deep level, yes, because even opposition brings out your better self in that way. But, anukulyasya sankalpa, pratikulyasya vivarjana, etc. So, it is, we could say, it's a natural fear of a devotee is really, Guru Maharaj said once, that their service is not being accepted. But I mentioned this Mahaprakash of Mahaprabhu. Devotees are asking him, saying, when he says, I'll give you whatever you want, they're saying, please give me remembrance of you, birth after birth, or let me be born in a family, any sort of birth in the house of a devotee. Or give me remembrance of Guru, one devotee prayed for. Give me devotion to Guru. They're all, none of them are asking for any type of siddhi, mystic power, mystic perfection, or mundane improvement or asset. It's all related to, please help me always remember you, get devotion to you, have devotion to Guru and Vaishnava, those kind of things. So, but there's a famous sloka in the Bhagavatam. How does it say? Samasritaye parapalava plavam mahatpadam punya yasho murare bhavam bhuvir bhavam vatsa param yad vipadam natesham. Vatsa padam. That means the imprint left by the hoof print of a calf. So it's saying, Samasritaye padapalavavam. The material world is like an ocean of ignorance and forgetfulness. There's no end to it. It's insurmountable. Devyesha gunamai mama maya durataya. But here in this verse it's saying, but if you come in connection with Krishna's devotees and the Lord's mercy as distributed by his devotees, saying this oceanic, insurmountable nescience, ignorance, forgetfulness becomes reduced to the water that's in the hoof print of a calf. That means that, it's a poetic way of saying a drop. So then we'll say, well, wait a minute. Moment you're describing this as an insurmountable ocean. It's oceanic in proportion. And now you're telling us that it's possible that an ocean can be reduced to one drop of water and easily cross beyond. That's amazing. How is that possible? That means, beginning with Sambandha Gyan, a change of perspective. What appeared to be oceanic and forgetfulness of Krishna, when we, by the grace of devotees, go on the path of remembrance, it's reduced in this way. And then Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur says something very sweet, charming, and interesting. He says, normally, devotees are afraid of the material world. He said, like Kamsa. Like Kamsa would instill fear. And if we understand him as an archetypal adversary of Krishna conception. He's saying, but Krishna is Govinda. He's the Lord of the cows. So he said, if that water that represents the material world that we are afraid of Maya. One Gaudiya Math devotee said, I challenge Maya. Can she take me from the lotus feet of Prabhupada? And Guru Maharaj said, don't challenge Maya. She will win. Right? Not to challenge Maya, respect Maya. He said, but still, there's some fear in the devotee of the mundane activities, etc. But Vishwanath says, yes, but water that's touched, the cow is worshipable, and water that's bathed the cow, that's also worshipable and sacred. Saying, so it's what we're being told here is by the grace of the Lord, all of this fearfulness will be removed, and then it will be seen as embraced as favorable. Of course, that's Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur on a deep level reading of life and our circumstances. But Guru Maharaj once said with regard to the Bhagavad Gita sloka, Neha Bikramana sti pratyaveo navidyate swalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. The greatest fear, sometimes expressed as, receding into the animal species where no spiritual culture is possible other than, like agyata sukriti. But Guru Maharaj said, interestingly, he said, the greatest fear of a devotee is that their service is not being accepted. That they want to know. Hare Krishna.